Regarding your clients, start with you, Jonathan. What is the most, or they say the three most common issues you have people coming in to see you about? What are they concerned about when they come to see you?
It used to be weight loss, energy, and a better mood. Now it's infertility, gut issues, and missing a gallbladder.
Missing a gallbladder. Wow. So a lot of people have been extracted surgically now.
Well, what's fascinating about it is we didn't know this was an issue until we started talking about fatty liver, because we know fatty liver is an issue, right? One in four people have one. But then you talk to all the people that had their gallbladder removed, there was no discussion about what to do afterwards. The gallbladder is connected to the liver. You think there was an issue with the liver to begin with? Zero talk about it. In fact, now Johns Hopkins University says you don't even need a gallbladder.
Right.
I don't agree with that.
I hear you. Kristen, what are you encountering on a regular basis for most of your clients?
Weight loss is not really weight loss, right? It's fat loss, and that is going to always show up. I think also comes out very quickly that people are showing up with negative self-talk. We're all talking to ourselves in this way in the mirror that we would never let our friends speak about themselves. Never. And understanding their capacity. So interesting how we work in this health and wellness space, and the things that come up are the holdbacks from past lives, and whether you believe in past lives or just younger years, and how we can step into our greatness or our real capacity. And I think that's what they're showing up hoping to shift.
So you're dealing with some emotional issues, not necessarily trauma, but just maybe, like you said, negative self-image. That's impacting their behavior.
Yeah, because adherence is everything in this landscape, right? It's about the ruthless consistency. And so a lot of the holdbacks, the negative self-talk, the negative self-worth, makes all of us sometimes feel like, I can't go do the thing.
So you deal with that self-talk as well. So as well as their physical behavior or their pattern, their lifestyle patterns, you're dealing with the emotional component of it as well.
Yeah.
Who does? Okay. Yeah. All right. What are you seeing as
people? I second that. I think it's anybody who's coaching or trying to help somebody shift in their life, whether it's health or mindset. So much of that is letting go, whatever that thing is that tells them they're not. So with my clients, I'm in the kind of high-end client space. I have a lot of people that are concerned about hormones, so 40 to 60 men and women, hormone people that are on hormone therapy, semaglutide, Ozempic. This is something that I work with a lot of people. And so I really, understanding that they're doing things specifically to improve their health, chemically or medically. I'm there to really make sure that everything else is going really well, so they're not just losing tissue, losing muscle, that kind of stuff, or just not optimizing what they could do in this situation.
So that's great. Yeah, it definitely changes things as we get, as I just said, over 40, over 50. There's a shift in where our bodies respond to the same thing that might have worked for us when we were 30. And so,
right, and if you take on a client who's just trying to naturally age, gracefully and optimize and get stronger and just improve their health, that's a very different conversation than somebody who's already chosen to go the medical route to optimize their testosterone or whatever those things are. So every client's different, but this is a different age now where people have those choices. And as practitioners, we need to figure out what they need and how they can optimize.
Absolutely. Kyle, you have a little different practice than everybody else here. So tell us about what you're seeing. I mean, you're hands-on chiropractor.
Hands-on chiropractor, pure chiropractic. And I would say most people come to see me beginning with low back pain, neck pain. That's what people usually think chiropractic is all about. We're going to get rid of that stuff. People definitely stay with me and continue coming with me because they realize that chiropractic is so big for improving your performance. I've been seeing this golfer for the last few months who came to me originally because he was dealing with some low back pain, as most golfers do, right? When you bend over at the hip and you rotate around the ball, that's 8 times the amount of pressure on your L5S1 disc. And so typically, going to get low back pain. And he golfs 150 holes a week at least.
Oh, wow.
And so we were able to take care of that really quick. And next thing you know, he's saying, "Oh well, now I'm having to club down because I'm hitting the ball a lot further than I ever did before. I've got more rotation. I feel like I've got more muscle activation." So there's a reason why Tom Brady and Tiger Woods and Jerry Rice and Michael Jordan all talk highly of chiropractic care. It's because it really helps you improve performance.
So would you say a lot of your clients are then already athletic, very active?
50-50. 50-50. I see a lot of deconditioned people as well. I see a lot of athletes, and I love working with athletes because they're so easy. They don't want my advice on nutrition or exercise, or they've already got that dialed in, and so it's real quick. But I see a lot of deconditioned people as well that want my advice on exercise and nutrition.
Sure, you're able to offer that as well too.
I am for sure. My advice is usually pretty general, but
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Jonathan, what have you changed your mind on regarding whatever something in the last 5 years? Where have you made a shift where you see something, whether it's an approach, a lifestyle approach, or the way you would address a certain issue? What have you changed your mind in the last 5 years?
I've changed my approach towards mental wellness. It's being talked about more. So now I get to talk about it with clients and they don't get offended or they get triggered. Guys especially will talk about their depression, which was not happening 5 years ago. It's not like you had a guy come in and say, "Hey, I'm depressed. I need to do something about it." So that's really cool that you're actually having these conversations. You get to talk about addiction. I love talking about the word addiction. I don't think it's a bad word, honestly. You can be addicted to working out every single day. Do you think that's a bad thing? Well, if you work out every day, 3 hours in the gym, let's talk about your adrenal hormones after that. Okay? So yes, addiction is more about supporting your dopamine. So when you talk about mental wellness, you quickly realize why we're addicted to salt and sugar. And you wonder why we can't lose weight, why I keep eating all the time. What I found out is everyone doesn't have an appetite, but yet they eat dinner every single night. So really I have to tell people my approach to diet now is to eat real food when you're actually hungry.
Profound. And in a very simple way. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Kristen, what have you shifted your approach on or opinion on in the last 5 years?
I would say, and for people who know me in this room, also, it's we apply the changes to ourselves as well. I think if you think about, let's talk about go hard. Everyone knows what 75 hard is, right? 75 hard. I think in the last 5 years, a girlfriend of mine is running a program next month called 75 Soft, and it's really about. God, I was so alpha. I still am a bit, but I was for so much of my life, and it helps as a coach, but it can grind you as a human, and especially in a female physiology. I think that in the last 5 years, I've really tried to work in the methodology, and not just in the breathwork space, which gives us so much opportunity to soften and process and do the dance of our energy every day, but really working with women to say, consistency beats intensity 10 out of 10 times, and how can we find ways to weave in this softness? And if we're going to talk about it in a health optimization structure, it would be recovery, because you're only as fit as what you can recover from. So how can you treat yourself softly enough and with some self-care to recover well?
So you're really back to that emotional getting the self-care, the recovery. We tend to think of your alpha approach was go harder. How much of that is probably a little bit of self-use?
Some of it is patterning, and some of it, it depends on the body you show up in. I show up in an extroverted space, and I'm intense. And so I love to get on we were talking last night, and I was like, I just want to get on the spin bike and have someone tell me what to do, because I'm always telling people what to do. And I could do that 7 days a week, but I know that that's not serving me, right? So how do I put variance into my fitness and my health practices, right? Because sometimes we think of fitness just as going to the gym lifting heavy shit. Women, if you're in this room, you're not lifting heavy shit. You need to start lifting heavy shit. But all of that, the balance isn't real, right? The balance
Yeah.
isn't real because we're always like one bucket's full or the other bucket's full, but there's like a notable way that we can weave in variance in our practice so that we feel whole, like more whole.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Barton, what have you changed your mind on?
I think perspective is the thing that starts to come to you in your 40s. I mean, I don't want to make people in their 20s and 30s feel like you have no perspective, but I think it's easy to just focus on the moment or the thing that you want 3 months from now, because you don't feel like your body's, you have to do anything specific to get your body to kind of stay up. There's a subtle slide that happens if you just kind of go about everyday life and you don't. Even if we're eating generally healthy, generally moving, like there is a slight, and this is what biohacking is all about. It's like how do we maximize where we're at? But I've just noticed, like, wow, if I think about me 30 years from now and how I want to train to be that guy, right? I'm 49, so like this is like almost like I'm thinking about what does the 80-year-old version of me look like? Is he this guy? Because I did squats and I just wouldn't give up bench press or whatever the thing that somebody's holding on to? Or was I smart and I started to incorporate other things, mobility, yoga, just carrying weights around, doing farmer's carries instead of doing shrugs all the time. Just those little things that give perspective. And then as a coach and trainer, to be able to give that perspective to somebody else, still give them what they want because they still want a big chest or a stomach or whatever the goal is, but then pepper in those things, those movement vitamins that help that person long term be able to feel like I'm really helping somebody beyond just this year. Right? And I think that's the perspective I've had more of, like, let's do it now. What's going to give you the maximum result now? This is 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Thank you. Kyle, I know it's a little different practice with you with things that change, but I'm sure when you have hands-on people change your mind.
So I was just thinking about this. So I think the biggest thing that I've changed with a lot of my patients is just my recommendations on exercise, especially for my deconditioned people. I used to recommend to everybody, like, you need to do that. Resistance training, it's the most optimal form of exercise in my opinion. It's the quickest way to gain muscle, increase your bone density, increase your flexibility. It's great for circulation. It carries a pretty low risk for injury if you have done right. So I used to recommend that to everybody, but I wasn't getting a whole lot of response with that. Like people would do that for 2 weeks and then they drop off. And so now, what's much more important than being optimal is being consistent, right? So now I tell people it doesn't matter what exercise you do. Ask me all the time, what exercise you do? It doesn't matter. Find something that you love. Find something that you like to do, because then you're going to be more consistent with it. And any exercise is going to come with benefits as long as you're consistent. So yeah, that's pretty much the thing that I've changed the most in my practice.
Gotcha. Jonathan, we have the diet wars that have been laid out in front of us for at least 2 decades. And so there's always a new diet in vogue, or people taking it to the point of making it part of their personality, the t-shirt, their IG handle. What are you finding that you need to clarify with the people that come to you that, in your opinion, they're not understanding about nutrition? And of course, this is opinion, because each one of you would have a different approach to nutrition. And it's not to say that anyone is more right or more wrong. So it's not about, but in your opinion, in your practice, where's the confusion you see coming into nutrition, and how do you address that?
I've tried every diet. My diet's changed every year. I run lots of labs. I've checked every diet: vegan, carnivore, paleo, Whole30. The best testing diet out of all of them is the carnivore diet when they eat the liver. However, beef is omega-6s. Your brain's omega-3, so is your eye. So is your liver. You can't go on a carnivore diet and eat nothing but bacon because what is the picking? And then honestly, yeah, exactly. And then also like you can't eat hamburger patties every single day and expect that to be healthy. Like a piece of beef is literally the size of your palm. And I eat a can of sardines at least once a day because it helps my brain, right? Like you don't see drive-through sardine sandwiches, nor do you see it being served to the public, school systems. But I mean, just nutrition is the whole. Like, look at food as not the way that you're going to get healthy. I'm sorry. There's no nutrient-dense food out there short of anything you'll find in the stores. I mean, you won't find anything. You have to supplement. And then with labs, I found out the human body does better when you don't eat. The digestive tract is moving in a one-way motion like a conveyor belt. You slow it down every time you eat. I can't eat in the middle of the day because I get a sugar crash later. I mean, 20 years ago, I was pre-diabetic. There's no way I can touch carbs in the middle of the day. I'll fall asleep. But most people in Texas go to the Mexican restaurants, and they go back to work at 2 p.m. and they wonder why they're tired all the time. I love sugar. I love carbs. Like, yeah, but do you love your insulin? And that's what I really think about, like the human body with autophagy, mitochondrial biogenesis. You know this. The human body does better when you do not eat. It extends your lifespan. So prove to me why food is that nutritious for us.
So then what is your nutrition recommendation?
Eat real food when you're hungry.
Okay, got it. I just want to make sure that was clear.
Because honestly, if I ask everyone to go in here, which I do, if I do, are you going to be actually hungry for dinner tonight? Your answer is no. So why are you going to eat dinner? And you skip lunch when you're stressed out. So I also think happy people aren't hungry. You only eat sugar and salt food when you're stress eating at the times of the day when you're most stressed. Either at 2 p.m. at your desk or 9 p.m. at night at the end of the day as a reward. So once again, if food is harming us, and I have to get you to stop damaging your liver, then I literally have to say stop and put the fork down.
All right, thank you. Kristen, what are you seeing in regards to nutrition that you would like to, or that you most commonly need to recommend or make changes to people who come see you in their mindset or their understanding of nutrition?
Yeah, I'm pretty protein forward. So I talk about that macro being the most important macro. Recognizing that, again, I'm working with all types of people and I do have a heavier female component. So many women are showing up to me in my one-on-one programs, even in instructor trainings. I'm getting asked what's the way I should be eating, how do I manage my metabolism, what's through food and prep and emotions. But the reality is, for me, that most people don't want to count every calorie, every macro, every single day for the rest of their lives. That's a very small percentage of people that are excited about that. So quite often I'm having people focus on what's your protein intake for the day and what's the source of that protein, right? We're not getting factory farmed animals if we're eating animals, and if you're not eating animals, please feel out how to be in the world of vegetarian or veganism or whatever, but using sources of protein that are actually good for you and going to be able to be processed through the system. So protein that's the jam, I think, for that's the drum I bang.
And so, with regard to your female clientele and what you mentioned earlier about dealing with the emotional side of training or going hard, what are their thoughts or what emotional barriers do they have to maybe taking that advice? I mean, you find
no one was hungry on my programs.
Okay.
No one was hungry on my programs, and I think that there's this notion or this socialization or thing that we've gotten from TV or magazines or whatever the era is we're in now, that we if I eat too much food. We just talked about this right before. It's like someone shows up to me and says, I'm a plateau and I can't quite get to this space and I want to lose a little more body fat and get a little more muscle and all of that. It's like, well, what is your protein and what is your calorie intake? Because you need free-floating amino acids all the time. And you can hack this. Eating a lot of food sometimes can feel like, God, I don't want to just chew and eat a lot more food. We can have a really good protein shake. And I'm a very big proponent for using the hack of getting some amino acids in your system, getting some good EAAs, supplementing with that, because you can drink them in your water on the way to the gym, and then you have some free-floating aminos that are available for the body to utilize. So it's like, if protein breaks down to aminos, just give yourself some aminos, and every 6 hours, make sure some of that is coming into your system. So the pushback is like, this is a lot of food, Kristen. And then when they start eating that way or supplementing or using the hacks, then the plateau goes away. And it's like, oh, okay, so we gotta, walk with them down the hall until they get there.
You feel like there's a misconception about protein from a lot of women about that, how that's going to make them look, how it's going to change their body, or is there like a
I think it's more about this is a lot of food, and a lot of food equals that my physique will not look the way I want it to in the mirror, which is absolutely false. And to Jonathan's point, it's really interesting to say, I love your point in many ways, and also I am very conservative on women going crazy with IF, with intermittent fasting. And I think it's really important to notice in your individuality where a 3-day fast might benefit you and autophagy and cleaning of the system versus like hardcore 18-6. Like that's great for you, but not so wonderful for females. In my opinion, there's a lot of opinions out there in the world. So, and where's your body at from a stress level? You just want to smack it with more stress, or you want to give it a little bit,
oh yeah, you gotta keep the balance, right? Stress and love, stress recovery. Okay. Barton, what are you seeing that you most often have to correct with your people coming to you, personal nutrition?
Well, you made the point in your presentation earlier that you have to decide if you're gaining muscle, working on gaining muscle, or working on losing body fat, adipose tissue, or whatever. And people want to magically do them all at the same time, and they believe that they just pay enough money or find the right trainer or find the right nutrition program that's going to happen. And I think that every stimulus we do, whether it's eating less or working out more, it's all stress on the body. That could be good stress, or it can be too much and it becomes bad. And so I'm always trying to get my clients to figure out what's their number one. If their number one goal is to lose weight, then we are focusing on a couple of days a week of strength training and walking outside. So they're just getting lots of steps in, but it's very it's low stress on the body. And then they're eating appropriately with a high protein diet is always where I tend to go to. I did a bodybuilding show last year, so I did all the calorie counting like to the nth degree. Don't recommend it for my clients unless that's their gym. But I do think that there's ways for people to, with a good kind of concept around their food, get a little more protein, because most people, like you said, don't eat enough protein because they'll have it. And I also feel like they don't eat enough quality protein, because I think there's a lot of variations of what is quality protein. If you're asking me that, what is quality protein, I have definitely something around like quality lean meat. And there is some like vegetable quality, protein that comes from vegetables, but mainly you got to get lean meats. I love eggs. They're great. They're amazing. And so these are great ways to get good protein in. So I'm just trying to help my clients find successful approaches that work for them. Right? I actually really a big fan of Greek yogurt mixed with a little bit of like protein powder just to get the flavor, so I don't have to buy the vanilla Greek. I can just buy plain, and I get a lot of protein in that. For some people, dairy doesn't work for them. So again, everyone's different, and that's the hard part about diet. It's like everyone's different, right? What works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. So the person you're working with needs to understand the flexibility of what is going to be the way that you can create long-term success. Anybody can go on a crazy diet for 2 months, drop some body weight, whether it's fat or muscle, who knows, and generally in the short term feel better. But the ability to create a program that works long term is the way to go. Right?
Thank you. Kyle, I know you said you give general nutrition advice, but you must be there's got to be a commonality in some of the questions you get.
I get a lot of questions about diet and what do you think? And again, these are general recommendations, but I'm similar to Dr. Doza over here. I follow the KISS method. Anybody know what the KISS method is?
Yes.
Eat is simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So eat whole foods. If man makes it, don't eat it. Protein, I typically focus on protein and yeah, lean steaks, whatever works for you. So
We have a consensus here of animal-based protein. It sounds like from each of you.
I've done vegan, I've done carnivore, I've done Mediterranean, I've done keto. I was strict keto for 3 years. Yeah, it's vegan is the most complicated way to get all your nutrients.
Oh my gosh.
Your macronutrients, all your minerals. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of planning. It's not the kiss.
Could you do it without supplementation?
Yeah.
You could do vegan without. I'm saying, could you do vegan without supplementation?
I didn't. I didn't.
You did vegan
supplement
without
because I
supplementation?
felt like crap the whole time.
My
Wow.
wife's vegan.
Get out. Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that must make dinners fun.
Yeah, that's fun. My son's like so confused. What do I do?
Yeah, you keep flexing. All right, tell them this is how you get this. We can tell you where it goes. Yeah. All right, so you mentioned earlier you can't have get all of your nutrients from food, so you need supplement. You need to supplement your diet. So where do you start there? What do you see most common that you need to recommend that people are missing? They really need to get some supplementation there.
The most common nutritional deficiency in the world is vitamin D. That is your immune system. And when you look at the labs, it's 30 to 100. That's not correct. Your doctors say, hey, you're 31, you're good. 70 to 80 is probably where you want to be at. So 5,000 units a day, take away vitamin K2, non-negotiable. Fish oil, non-negotiable. B vitamins, non-negotiable. Electrolytes, trace minerals, huge fan of amino acids. Huge fan. I take a scoop of amino acids every morning in my drink. I'm a huge fan of carnitine, which vegans are deficient in because they're not eating meat, carne, right? And then I'm a big fan of glutamine, which is great for your gut. If you have bloating and leaky gut, it's also great for bodybuilding as well. But I'm a huge fan of amino acids, B vitamins, fish oil, and vitamin D. And that's the standard. Now, if you need something on top of that, remember, everyone has a fatty liver, and everyone needs adrenal support. So, one have 2 cents.
Well, what would you recommend for adrenal?
Oh, yeah, adrenal support. Okay. So, all right. So, I used to do a lot of hormone replacement therapy, but I actually don't as much because it didn't work. So, I actually go straight to the source. The adrenals are actually the main functioning organ when it comes to your stress response, right? HPA axis, right? Makes cortisol, adrenaline, makes sex hormones, makes aldosterone, I mean, everything, right? Just regulates that. When you wake up in the morning, your adrenals are on fire. But with stress, looking at this screen all day, it's like more cortisol. But what does cortisol do to you at night? Suppresses your melatonin, right? So I take supplements in the morning specifically for my cortisol and my blood sugar. I take bovine adrenal gland, and I take vitamin B5. Like vitamin B5, I could give you in an IV. It will calm you out, because it messes with your cortisol. Your cortisol is here, it get lower. So take it in the morning before you get stressed out.
That's an IV.
You can do an IV. I take a bovine adrenal gland though as a pill.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I have a supplement company because I used to send people to the pharmacy all the time to come back with something that was like, that's not what I told you to get. So the bovine adrenal gland is in our supplement with B5, B6, adaptogens. And so just take that, for stress and sleep. But adrenal support, seriously, you need to take adrenal support.
Thank you. All right. Kristen, recommendation on supplementation. I mean, you're deep in biohacking as well. I mean, where do you see the greatest need, and what are you usually recommending for your people?
Yeah, I know what he said. Great. I mean, pro style. You said pro style. Creatine, I would add to that. I think men have been on creatine since the dawn of time. More creatine, mom. But women and creatine, and it's neuroprotective, and there's so many beautiful things, and it's so inexpensive. And generally speaking, because the challenge with supplements is is it fairy dusted? Is it good? All the things that come with sourcing. I think creatine is pretty generally one of the cleaner ones you can find and one of the least expensive ones you can find. So I would say creatine for sure. And I don't know if you'd call it a supplement, but I also have found good benefits personally and with some clients. So I'm also a plant medicine facilitator, microdosing in various different ways, right? It's like a form of nootropic, and It obviously isn't legal everywhere and whatever's going on, but I think microdosing is a nice thing if it's calling you to explore.
So psilocybin.
Psilocybin, yeah.
Psilocybin.
Psilocybin or stamina, something like that.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, creatine for women is been kind of like, oh, they're scared of it typically because they're worried about getting big, right? They're thinking about, oh, we're going to gain weight.
That makes your belly bloated.
And so you obviously take creatine. And so,
every morning I take my Wake Stack 3 and it has creatine, colostrum, and EAA amino acids.
right. And so the benefits for women, you say you're neuroprotective.
Neuroprotective.
And so to their fear, let's address their fear with the creatine.
Yeah.
So are they going to get? I mean, it's not just belly bloating. You might put on some water weight, right?
Yeah, but the other thing is you can cycle. Like if you're a woman in your reproductive years, you have like I think it's like 8-pound variance in the shift in the blood plasma, and it's like get off the scale. Get off the scale. Well, I mean, get on the scale if you want, but get off the scale, right? Are we mostly off the scale in here? Just give the scale away, throw it out the window. It's like, we have all these mechanisms in our body to make a child, and if we're in our reproductive years, we can feel bloated at certain times of the month, and there's so many other things like that could be causing that, like sodium, and there's like not enough, or so I think that when I have women that come to me and say I'm having bloat because I think you gave me the creatine, I say, what protein powder are you using? And they're like, whey, and then I'm like, get off the whey. Get onto get onto like some beef and egg, grass fed, yada yada, and then things start to shift. So, yeah.
And that improves their training, their response to the muscle, and the water is typically intracellular. Really.
Yeah, and you can like slow dose. You can like start with smaller doses of creatine and work your way up if you're worried. If you were to take like 10 scoops of creatine, you'll have diarrhea. Like don't go. Yeah, kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Right. In a beautiful way. Follow some dosage. Ask some people. Work with people who know what dosages are good.
Yeah.
Can I make one more thing? So we keep talking about protein powder. I'm not a fan of protein powder. It gave me gout. It's also made, the vegan one is made with peas, which are legumes. Go look up legumes and how much damage it causes to your gut. So you imagine like vegan pea protein is like the worst thing you could ever do for your digestive tract. No wonder you're bloated all the time, right? Yes.
Yeah, and you probably won't be invited to a lot of parties either.
Not at all.
Barton. Okay, what do you see?
Well, I first of all seconding the creatine. It's one of the most studied supplements out there for 30 plus years, and so that's the first thing when somebody's interested in like getting stronger and getting healthier is unless there's a reason they shouldn't be on creatine, I recommend just supplementing creatine. And if they're vegan or vegetarian, they get more benefit from it because if you're getting a little bit of creatine, you're eating red meat and muscle meat. If you're not doing that because your diet, then supplementation of creatine is huge for the neuro effects and also the muscle effects. So I think that's a great one. You only need one scoop really for most populations. The way I do it is if you're over 200 pounds, take 2 scoops. If you're under 200 pounds, take 1 scoop. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's generally.
I take 2, but it's a lot of.
But you're
like right. Yeah, I'm just over 200 pounds. And I'm doing that because I just want to keep my brain active and all the neuro components that are beneficial. That's what I'm more worried about.
Well, and the cool thing about it is I think people they hear water weight and they think, oh, that's like in the subcutaneous fat. No, it's water binding with like in your muscle that is now being, with the creatine is going to be energy when you're at the gym. So you go to the gym, you feel a little crappy on rep 7, 8, or your energy slows quickly. You all of a sudden take creatine, you have this like little extra bit. When I was in college, I did a study on creatine, and a grad student brought me in, and I did 3 weeks of with a placebo and 3 weeks of creatine, and we did a bunch of testing, and I could absolutely notice a difference. And it's usually between for me, it was 8 to 12 reps is where I really felt that I had more endurance. Grip was incredible. They did grip strength tests, and you could hold it as long as you could, and the amount of time that I could hold maximal pressure was significantly better on the creatine. So
it shuttles more ATP into the reps, not right.
Right. So you just become a more efficient system for strength training and just health of nobody. So
Yeah.
I love it. I'm a fan of it.
Absolutely.
So,
Kyle.
Well, starting tomorrow, I'm going to start recommending creatine to people. I'm taking it myself. I don't.
We're all here to learn.
So, but yeah, I mean, I second fish oil and omega-3s. Omega-3s is huge for the brain. A lot of people don't, when they think brain health, they're thinking cognitive performance and focus. But your brain controls and coordinates every other function of your body, right? And so, when you increase your brain health, you actually increase all the other organs as well. Vitamin D, take vitamin D, recommend vitamin D for everyone. It's huge for immune system health. We see Parkinson's patients and cancer patients, they all have really low vitamin D levels, so that's huge. And the third one that I recommend to everybody, I don't think anybody's mentioned, is magnesium. Magnesium, I recommend it. Everybody I absolutely despised biochemistry in chiropractic college, but I do remember that magnesium was in every single biochemical process, and we're horribly deficient in magnesium. So magnesium, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a big one for me. Sleep.
That's funny. We were in chiropractic school. I was actually like drawing the biochemistry, like rings, and you're in the back, like, oh my god, can we just like learn how to do this?
It was the worst class. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then I just started taking colostrum too, and I feel great on colostrum. I digested my food better, and yeah, I feel more energized. I just discovered colostrum, so yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. Yeah, great for staying intellectually curious. Keep learning. Right? That's what we're doing. Before I keep rambling, anyone have any questions from the audience that we could? Okay. Also, let me. You can.
I love people that sit in the front row.
Hi, thank you everyone. So informative. One thing I wanted to ask about is water. It's obviously really huge, and there's a lot of new perspective on it, whether reverse osmosis, minerals, or all of that, and alkaline water. And now I'm hearing that all of that is BS, and negatively charged water, hydrogen, is way better. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's a tough one.
I can talk. I'm a big fan of hydrogen water. God, I never want to. It's like, especially if it's like plastic bottle. This whole pH thing is like a marketing mumbo jumbo, right? It's like what? And no. And I get people are like, oh, to clean my house with pH 5 water. I don't know. I'm not a fan of pH water. I guess that's what I'm saying. I do think it's a lot of marketing BS. I always am hesitant because like the science is always changing and we're learning things. And the other day my dad spoke to me from the ether. He's been gone for 7 years. Like things show up and that are interesting. But I believe in the power of hydrogen water. I worked for a number of years with Hydrotab, which was it's basically a non-chelated, is that how you say that? Magnesium tablet you put in the water to get bubbles to come out, and you want to drink it relatively quickly because you want the bubbles and the gas, not the fragments of magnesium in a glass of water. And there are a lot of studies around it. I think his name escapes me right now. It's him. Who's the young guy? Tyler W. LeBaron and the Molecular Hydrogen Institute. Go to that website. There's a ton of studies that really talk about some benefits. It feels pretty unbiased. I mean, Tyler's been in that space for a long time. And I think clean water, like finding the cleanest water you can, is really important. Like at my apartment, I have a filter in the fridge that comes with the apartment, and I got an AquaTrue because I can't install an iSpring under my sink. So I'm not saying I advocate necessarily for these brands, it's just what I typically use. And getting clean source of water, it's just pretty scary what's in the water that comes out of the faucet. I think we know that. So clean water, and then hydrogen water for me has been a big banger. I have a hydrogen water machine, a Hydrofix at home, not cheap, and every day I'm having a full pitcher of hydrogen water. And skin, hair, energy, sleep, things are just better.
Thank you. Any other opinion on?
I don't have a opinion specifically on those types of things. I feel like you got to be careful of like what sells right now, which I think has been a good point. I would just go back to the basics of like, let's make sure we're getting enough water. But if you get in your 40s and 50s, if you're waking up twice a night to pee, because you're drinking too much water, well, then your sleep's more important to me for your recovery. So probably figure out when to get your water in so that you can sleep before. You can get 6+ hours without waking up. That's better for you than being completely hydrated at bedtime and waking up too much.
And if you go listen to Susan's talk later, she'll talk about some pelvic floor things you can use so that you can drink a little more water and not wake up. Right?
Can't wait for that one. Can we all agree that tap water is not something you want to put in your body? Yeah. Okay. So bare minimum. Let's say you're not doing the latest, greatest water to hit the market. Bare minimum to not put tap water into your body, and not plastics and everything else. What are some options, like just kind of basic options that you would say to your average client who's coming to you? I don't need the greatest water, but how do I just avoid the toxins? How do I avoid fluoride?
Oh, I have a joke. I'm like, again, I'm not affiliated with any of these brands, but I just put a Jolie in my shower head. So we're showering all the time, and like it's on our skin, biggest organ and all the things. And so I think getting a filtration system for your shower makes sense, and it's typically reasonably priced, kind of one and done. I only drop brand names because I researched the heck out of them to make sure they're not fake. And I think putting some kind of filtration system, I don't think it's a Brita. Sorry, Brita. But I think some kind of filtration in your house is relatively important.
Not just what you're drinking, but what you're putting on your skin, on your body, showering. That makes sense.
Yeah, best you can. I mean, I'm not filling my ice bath with filtered water, unfortunately, but
Right.
yeah.
Right. Anyone else concur? Okay. Okay. Do you have a question?
You mentioned fasting, and it's something that I have just begun to like revisit. And I just was curious if anyone could speak to it, probably maybe Kristen or anyone actually. I'm noticing it's very compelling evidence, the benefits of fasting. And yet as a woman, I'm nervous, especially working through burnout and my adrenals. And so like the idea of not eating breakfast scares me. So I'm wondering actually in this moment, I'm thinking, yeah, what would be your advice for that? And yeah, maybe it's actually just fasting one day a week. And now that I think about it, I don't know. I would love to hear.
Doza will have an opinion on this. That might even be like a different opinion, which I love. I remember I told you what I'm like, and a lot of times our bias is slightly about like I'm alpha, I'm loving, on the edge of burnout. Like there's a lot of that. I feel excited about the quote that is like, I'm gonna slide into my grave, with like a broken cigarette and just like messy hair. Like I feel like not that I smoke, but I just feel like I want to get the juice out of life. And so when I think about, I've had to really work on the fasting piece, and then the women who show up to me quite often are like corporate, high-powered executive females. So I am soft on fasting when it's intermittent fasting. And I also would say to you that my opinion is eat the heck out of a breakfast that's protein rich and just have a lighter dinner maybe earlier in the day if you're gonna skip a meal. And again, like there is a thing where clients come to me and say, well, I just intuitively had the hit. I needed like a pizza and 2 Ben & Jerry's pints. I just felt and that kind of harkens to what Doze is saying, which is, are you really hungry? Is it emotionality? Is it some kind of spiral you're in or whatever? But I would say, just as an exploration, how fun would that be to be like 4 eggs and let me get after it in a morning breakfast, and then maybe like circadian eating style where it's like the sun setting and you're having your last meal before it's gone. Could be cool. And then if you want to fast and get some autophagy going, like once a quarter, do like a 3-day or a 5-day or ballsy, do a week, like then really clean out the system, because that day 3, day 4, if you guys have fasted for a long amount of days, crazy shit starts to happen to your body and you're like, ooh, it's fixing itself, right? Which is so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. So we've always heard that fasting is bad for women's hormones, right? That's been the thing. And then I had a friend tell me who's like a keto guy, he's like, women need carbs. It's like, it's that simple. It's like, women need carbs. I'm like, okay, fair enough. But why the hormone issue? It's the liver. It really is. The liver regulates all your hormones, right? So when you're doing a spring cleaning, your liver's like a refrigerator. And it's rare that we ever clean it out. We don't ever stop eating long enough to do that, right? So I did labs. Once again, I'm a male, I understand it. But I did 6-day water fast. I did labs before and after. Confirmed something I always thought from a doctor recently who told me this. You'll never run out of glucose. You will never run out of glucose. Your body will make more of it. You can run out of fat. You can definitely run out of protein. But I strapped a glucose reader to a person training for an Ironman. There's a guy. His blood sugar started here at the beginning of the race and it went here at the end of the race. He didn't eat for 7 hours. Why did his blood sugar go high? What did that do to his insulin? Was it the glucagon that was raising all that? And then what was going on with his cortisol and adrenaline? So when I see all those things, I have to account for those in fasting. I get the idea that you don't want to stress the body, hence why I don't do cold plunges at night before I go to bed, right? However, it's the adrenal thing again. If you're going to fast, support the adrenals, know you're going to stress your body a little bit better. But with this autophagy thing, we cannot deny this. Mitochondrial biogenesis, whether you're a man or a female, you can make new cells. Exercise makes new brain cells. Fasting, like I say, when you eat less, when you don't eat, your body is healthier. Talk about nutrition.
Okay, so what I've heard from both, you try to parse out a little bit, is that the acute fasting over a period of days is probably more beneficial in terms of autophagy, recycling cells, than doing something that is like on and off every other day.
Well, what do you think the sweet spot is to get into autophagy? Like how many hours? Does it change with women? Because I mean, I know for most guys, you can get autophagy if you're like insulin's under control and all that, probably within like 24 to 36 hours.
I think it's like to tolerance. There's something about what are the existing stressors in your life right now, and to tolerance, it's like just if all you can do is 2 days, then 2 days is going to be like a nice little thing. I just also think there's a nice way to stretch it. I'm not saying do like 30 days water fast unless you have something clinically, medically going on.
Yeah.
But I've never done longer than 5. And I think, well, at some point I'd like to do a week to feel how that feels. But again, like, and in this era of my life, knowing what I might need to be taking and putting in my body, not necessarily food, but supplements or a little bit of, dare I say, like pharma during the course of a long fast like that, so that my hormones don't get a little wonky during that week.
Yeah, and I will clarify. I don't think there's a lot of benefit doing a 6-day water fast as opposed to a 5-day water fast. I think once you go past like, 3 days, I think really you're like, what's the benefit of this? I did have a lady who did a 15-day water fast, medically supervised for her Hashimoto's. And she had to get IV nutrients and it reversed it. I mean, I think the longest fast ever recorded is like 300 days or something. It was like medically supervised and the guy lost like 400 pounds. Like seriously, it was to save his life. You know, I mean, it's been culturally like Ramadan and, like 30 days. Like, come on. I mean, you can fast. You just eat way too much.
Right. So I guess my question was more like, so 2-3 day fast, 4 day fast, where that is, so as opposed to
Yes.
an intermittent fast where you're doing a 6-hour eating window throughout the day, which may cause some of the stress that you're worried about.
Yes.
Yeah, like 18-6 is, I think, right? That's a lot of what's talked about in the community for intermittent.
Yeah, but so you're not really getting the
60
benefit of
hours.
autophagy
You don't.
in that period of time,
You
but you might be incurring some risk.
And I want to bring this up because that stupid article just came out about intermittent fasting causing heart disease risk. That's BS. That's completely BS. Okay, yeah, of course it is, right? So let's just say cortisol starts here at the beginning of the day. Like it was here when you woke up and sunlight hits you, it goes here. What does cortisol do to your body? It raises your blood glucose without you even eating breakfast. So the second you eat anything, what does your blood glucose do? It goes up. What's going to happen next? Insulin. What's going to happen next? Blood sugar crash. How do you function throughout the day if your blood sugar and insulin's doing this all day and you haven't eaten anything? It's just cortisol. Plus we throw in caffeine, right? And so then I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're doing it all wrong. No one is technically hungry throughout the day unless you actually have a hunger, which is coming from, I bring this back to it because most people are like, I'm craving salt all the time. I'm like, that's different. You're not hungry here. And they're like, yeah, I know. It's a reward.
Okay, so maybe
The answer
you're
to your
gonna,
question, Zane, is yes.
So the
okay,
answer
so
is yes.
if you're gonna do intermittent fast, or you want to adjust your eating, or maybe you're trying to get some satiety in that, so maybe I think I've heard you say it, but shift it to morning. So maybe start your intermittent fast. Start with a morning meal, and then if you're doing an 8-hour or 10-hour window, whatever it is, that comes from shaving off the back end of your day. Okay.
That's good.
And I think that's what Molly would say, actually, if she were here, about regarding helping sleep, right? Helping you sleep and just stop eating. We're seeing more and more.
100%. That's what Molly will.
You start the sooner you stop eating the day, the better your sleep will be, which is an important part of managing cortisol, all that stress response.
I will say, personally, that's what happens with me is if I skip dinner, the HRV levels are way high, the deep sleep is way high, like it's just so good.
So we're really flipping the traditional intermittent fasting that everybody's bragging about skipping breakfast. We're flipping that on its head because that just didn't seem to really be the best way to approach that, did it? From a cortisol or stress standpoint, or even sleep.
But we were for 10 years. Many of us were like, I'm not fasting breakfast. I'm putting 8 pounds of butter in my coffee and collagen, and I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying, like, I'm not quite sure that we were actually doing that kind of a fully fasted thing.
I had black coffee.
Well, of course, that's you. Yeah, but also I think a lot of people are skipping breakfast, especially like. It's not just about women. It's like fathers and mothers and kids in school and getting everybody off and doing all the things and then being like, oh my God, it's 11 a.m. and I haven't put anything in my, like not even water maybe, unless I have in my cup holder, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Kristen, this question is for you. So I've heard a lot of controversy around cold plunging for women, especially at different parts of their menstrual cycle. And I know that around ovulation and menstruation, you shouldn't be because you want to keep the body warm. And I'm just curious your thoughts around that.
Yes, so much. I don't even want to call it controversy because it's like, it's so beautiful that we all have different intuition and different bodies in many ways. And the first thing I want to say is reproductive years, cycling. If you're not doing like an anito at home, like some of us are ovulating for 12 hours. Some of us for maybe 36 on the far side. Some people are having a 28-day cycle. And we think like it's all within 4 or 5 days of a cycle. And I just had a man say this to me, and I love men, but it's like, well, it's just 4 or 5 days, give or take. And it's like, well, a totally different period of my cycle. If I'm a period, or am I ovulating? Am I in luteal phase? What's happening? So I just want to say that unless we're like testing every day, we don't know. I just interviewed Lauren Colenso Semble, who you guys would love to, I'll share it with you because she talks about this whole thing about estrogenic effects on muscle and how it's not as big of a deal as we thought. And it's really about adherence. But with the ice bath specifically, I'm lingering on this because traditional Chinese medicine practitioners out there have very strong opinions about keeping the womb warm. And you can subscribe to that. And I'm not quite sure if I do or I don't. When I look at the hard science, I think that it's relatively okay any time of the month to plunge. And it's 3 minutes in the cold. And TCM is usually talking about like drinking cold water with food, and it's like topical and different things. It's not for an adaptive practice, part one. Part two is if I'm going to not plunge any time of my cycle, it's going to be the luteal phase, the last few days before I get my period, because that back half is when I get way more sensitive. I have stress intolerance is higher and my sleep is shittier. Like that's typically what we see in the papers that are done around women different cycles. And there's still not enough research. So if anyone in here has a beautifully big checkbook, please go out in the world and spend money on getting women to get research on their bodies, because people are doing it. Like Andy Galpin is always raising funds to do this kind of work, and it's so important. So there is no, it depends. There is no short answer. It needs to feel good for you in the stress moment that you're in. I am cautious on women plunging every day. I think it's great. Do a 30-day challenge. Cool. I'm not saying don't do that, but 365 days a year, go hard. Day 1046, 32 degrees, 10 minutes. Like, you don't need to do that, right? Like, we don't. And the reality for everyone, I'm just going to say this, I'll talk about it later too, is once you get in the cold water, we're getting in ice baths to get good at life, not to get good at taking ice baths. Doesn't mean that I'm not like, alphaing out in the gym for a 10-minute challenge with someone, whatever. But we're doing this to get good at life. Once you get in the cold water and you have what I call the turnover happen, where you settle in and you learn how to navigate the stress with your breath and your body and your brain and your being, then You're gonna add 20 minutes to that, Joe Rogan? You're gonna add 10 minutes to, like, you've done the work. You can get out, right? So it's very intuitive. It's very managed around your stress. I think it's like, I would say during my period, it's the low hormone phase. I'm like all in. And if I have cramps, even more, I'm all in. But that's me. So yes, and depends. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Sounds like that guy had been in a long-term relationship with those 4 or 5 days. I mean, come on. Have you actually been home the entire month? I mean, it changes. But to clarify, when you say you wouldn't get into ice plunge in that phase, you're talking about the phase where your progesterone is higher. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm talking about the back half of the luteal, like the last 3 or 4 days before I get my period. And you're tracking it. So like those days
So
bore
right before that.
before my period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a hot bath kind of thing for me.
Okay. I just want to clarify. Okay. Any last questions? We're kind of down to. Wait. Well, how are we doing? You good? Two. Okay.
This one's for Dr. Mendoza. You spoke earlier just briefly about the gallbladder, and you seem to have a lot of knowledge in it, so I have this question for you. Do you have any experience with people doing the apple cider cleanse followed by olive oil to help pass gallstones? Do you have any experience with that, or anything you could share in that?
It's been around for decades.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's
it works.
very interesting.
It works.
I'd like to hear your point of view.
It's much better option than celery juice. Just saying. But the liver loves apple cider vinegar. If you took a shot of it every day, it's weird because the pH balance, right? It's good. But I would say yes with the olive or oregano too, has also been known to clear things out. So I just don't do it personally. I rather take supplements. So.
Well, I'm saying apple cider, not
Yeah,
apple cider
No,
vinegar.
apple cider vinegar plus.
No, not apple cider vinegar, apple cider.
Oh, I haven't heard that. I've heard apple cider vinegar. I didn't say apples. Yeah, I misheard you. No.
There was a book written by this author, Andres Moritz, about cleansing the liver, which also helped people pass gallstones that would have to otherwise have the gallstone removed. And they were doing apple cider for like 2 or 3 days, and they would follow with olive oil. And somehow that type of juice cleanse, followed by the olive oil, would help allow them to pass it. And
I actually have a doctor who was doing olive oil like every day, just taking it straight. I was like, that's disgusting. I'm not going to do that, but it worked. So it does. But the book for that, I'm referencing. I know we're done. DC Jarvis, apple cider vinegar. It's an MD. He wrote it. He said he will live longer. Apple cider vinegar.
It seems like you need the acid followed by the fat, not the sugar followed by the fat. That's what you're.
Bingo. Yeah.
And so it's the apple cider vinegar.
But try it.
Acid, and that's what just going to start the cleanse more so than apple cider. That almost sounds like a misprint to me.
I don't know. It's just weird because apple cider vinegar can be acidic, but it's also you live in alkalinity when you're in health mode. That the whole book was like you need to be alkalinic. The whole diet needs to be alkalinic. Like meat's acidic. So that's why I'm like a little bit of meat. But with you, I think it works. I've seen like cayenne pepper shots and like all that stuff. It works.
Wait, one more.
This is primarily for Dr. Hardwick. What's your opinion on the best, I guess, mattress for sleep, or best methods for sleep, and then also, well, I guess let's hear that first, and then I'll ask my second.
Yeah, so I mean, again, general recommendations. Everybody's a little bit different, but I always recommend as firm as you can get it without it being. You need to be able to move while you sleep. Your joints need movement or need movement for nutrition. That's how your joints get nutrition. Your joints have blood supply to them. So your body's figured out a way to get nutrition from movement. And so if you're sleeping in a real soft mattress and you're all swollen up by that, then you're not going to be able to move properly, and it's going to be bad for you. It's going to be bad for your spine.
Okay, and then what's your opinion on stomach sleeping on your stomach, right? Okay.
Terrible.
And
if you're sleeping all day with your neck cranked over like this, not.
And then what are some of the best sleep positions, especially if you have injuries, shoulder injuries?
Probably your back.
Okay, so then I know this is pretty specific, but if we're always looking down, right, at our phones, and you have the pillow and you're in this position all night,
Don't use that pillow. So take a rolled up towel, put it under your neck, so your head lays flat against the bed, and then you've got proper neck support. A pillow that I really like is called the Proper Pillow. It's on Amazon. It's shaped like an oval, and so there's a hole in the middle of in the middle of the pillow. And so when you're laying on your back, your head is flat against the bed, but you've got proper neck support. And then when you're sleeping, because you fall asleep, you're going to change positions. When you're sleeping, and you roll over to your side and build up on the side, so your head stays nice.
what's it called?
Proper.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks, Don.
All right, thank you. I'm afraid that's all we have time for, but everyone's going to be hanging out afterwards, right? You guys give it up for our experts, our panel here.
Thank you.